Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Good, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. And I mean, I enjoyed tasting your wines. And I want to ask you a couple questions first about the two vintages, because I know about 18, but we can go over that again. But I must say, I was very impressed with the 19, and people haven't spoken much about it. And your, Chianti Classico Normale was really delicious and really nice fruit and polished tannins and very balanced. It had a little bit more depth than the 2018. What remind me how the growing season was?
Well, they were not so much different, but what you have as a big difference, of course, that before of 18 you had 17. Okay, so
Ah,
the wines really had a little bit to recover. I mean, 17 was extremely challenging, and I think they did a good job, and we were lucky that we had a very rainy winter in 18, so they really had, let's say, quite a good while to recover. But then, let's say, during that happened again also in the 19, we had, not during the winter, but we had a very rainy spring. So in both vintages, actually, the wines, they started their vegetation period with enough water, and then in 19 it was definitely a little bit hotter,
you can
in
taste it.
July, but we had so much water in May that this heat was not really a big issue. And then we were really fortunately in 19 that we had end of July a very rainy night. It seems like nothing one night, but it really had, this beautiful rain, not too heavy, but intense and long. So we went back to warm, but we went back to warm with the good water reserve. And then very, very similar to 18, we had quite quickly, that means around mid of August, a pretty big day and night difference in the Chianti Classico region as well as in the Maremma, which is of course beautiful for perfect ripeness. So let's say the big difference was that we started 18 with some wines with, let's say, they really suffered in 17.
So does that mean that the vines that suffered from 17, that they didn't produce much crop, or they produced, or they like went back and made a lot of crop? Because the wines
No,
have I wouldn't say dilution, but they're very, very elegant, and they lack maybe a little bit in the mid palate. Not your wines, but I would say in general, which by the way I like. They're very elegant and delicious wines. But you know what I mean? The 19s have a little bit more in the, in the medium palate.
yeah, I totally agree. They have a little bit more power, but I
Yeah.
in our case, our production is so small anyhow. But no, I would really say that the wines they produced by them own already a little bit less grapes
Okay.
than in average. But on the other side, I have to say that 17, beside that it was of course very challenging, it was for us somehow the proof that what we did in the last 20 years in the vineyards is just the right way to go. So having the wines more balanced, more connected with the soil, with the environment, really helps them to manage those difficult vintages pretty well. Because even in our 17s, you won't really feel and
No.
have this, it's there. They have a certain freshness. They have a pretty nice acidity. So, but I mean, it goes without saying that whatever you have this vintage is totally directly connected with what happened the last vintage. And then, of
Yeah.
course, even more connected whatever you did in the past, much more than just 1 year. But the quantity of the grapes you have right now, they're directly connected with what happened last year in the vineyards and
Yeah.
in the climate, of course.
So the 19 was a little bit riper, and the 18 fresher, more balanced.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I mean, That's what happened. Nothing in particular that comes to mind then.
No, both vintages were more on the warm side.
Yeah.
19 a little bit more, but not in an extreme way like 17. It was actually both vintages, early vintages you love to have. They do stress a little bit the wines, but not too much. So you get the connection with your spot. You get really very beautiful, interesting ripeness, but it's not challenging in a way that you could struggle. It's actually, it's what you like to have as a winemaker.
Yeah, and we do as consumers. It's really so delicious already, and the tannins, everything integrated. But then you have on the 19 really nice fresh acidity, where you have the ripeness and the fresh acidity at the same time. So
Especially the Chianti Classico, it
yeah.
is, this freshness, this lightness. It really wants just to show the beauty of the Sangiovese without adding anything. There is no oak. There's just concrete and stainless steel.
Are you guys organic? I can't remember your viticulture.
Yes, we are. We are since 19. So, we started everything much earlier, but officially we are organic since 19.
Okay.
So this makes it a bit easier, I think, for the consumer, just to know, because it's written on the back label, so he or she will be more aware that we are organic. But a lot of things we started much earlier. And we really do believe that this is not only the good thing or the right thing to do for nature, it is really the right thing to do for the quality of the grapes.
That's great. And so tell me about Il Blu. So this is your 30th anniversary, right?
It is, yeah.
I have it here. I like the label.
Thank you. It was actually challenging because, as you know, the label is designed by my father. He designed it in '88, and in '88 it was really shocking. And so when we do have now this anniversary, it was like, okay, let's do something different, but it still should be totally blue. And having two squares and make it different, it's not easy. We changed actually the paper. The blue paper was always without structure. This does have a structure. And then, of course, the easy part was the gold. And then you have some little details like the name in the glass, on the neck, as well as on the bottom, and also the case. Just easy little things which show that it is a bit different. But honestly, more important is, of course, as always with the wine, is the inside, and we did there some changement. If you compare it with the previous vintages, we increased again a little bit the merlot. So from 2013 till 17, it was 70% merlot. In the 18, you have 80% merlot and 10% Sangiovese, 10 Cabernet Sauvignon. This has just to do that the merlot, especially the merlot from Radda and Chianti, was so outstanding that we really wanted to give this beauty, this elegance, this power of this merlot from the Radda more space. On the other side, of course, it helps us always to increase the quality of the Reserva as well. It gives us the space to produce with the vintage 2019, also the Gran Selezione. But beside this changement, we changed also a little bit the way how we do mature the wine. It used to be 20 months in barriques, 2/3 new, 1 used. The new and already used barrique is still the same, but we reduced the aging time in barrique for 2 months. So it's just 18 months in barrique. And then after this aging, as usual, we will taste each single barrique just as a last quality control. And then we will decide the final blend. And there again is a important changement. Normally, we bottled the final blend suddenly afterwards. And now with the 2018, we aged the wine for other 3 months in concrete. So the whole blend together for 3 months in concrete. So when we actually bottled afterwards the wine, it was already much more together.
Yeah.
And it shows a little bit more open. Okay, it won't change anything if you will open this bottle in 10 years. But right now, to taste and to drink it right now, it really helps to have it a bit more opened and that be, already very more, let's say, more harmonic than it was in the past. So we
Totally.
think we help the person who likes to taste or drink it right now to enjoy it at its best.
I get that. It's really long too. It
Yeah.
has great length, and the tannins are really completely, melted in the wine. Where does and then the Sangiovese and Cabernet come from? Which estate?
From Castellina.
Oh, Castellina. Okay,
Yeah.
from
So
from your
still a
near the
blend.
winery then.
Yeah, it's still a
Yeah.
blend of Castellina and Radda. But when in the past we used also some merlot from Castellina.
Yeah. That's
We
what's it's so interesting because no one thinks of Merlot from Radda. They think of it from Castellina because of Siepi or some other things. It's really interesting when I didn't realize it was from Radda. Is it, which part of Radda is it?
we are still quite low in sea level if you compare it with Radda. It's actually when you drive from Castellina, the dust road to Radda. So we are
Okay, on that side.
We are closer to Castellina than to Radda, and as a sea level we are
Okay.
350 up to 450, which is for Radda, let's say, low. Yeah.
That's right.
But we have also Merlot, of course, in Castellina, where we are really neighbors with Siepi. But especially in the last 10 years, I do really think that our Merlot from Radda is every single year more interesting. It does have more personality, more structure.
So good.
It's really, I believe that, as always, I just can speak about Brancaia, not about other wineries, but from our point of view, in our reality, the Merlot in Radda is quite a bit more interesting than what we can produce in Castellina.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And then, of course, another great thing to see is that our average age of our wines is now 35 years old. So you really can see that each single year, the wine really can achieve a more typical grape. And then, of course, we do learn something. So there's still definitely space to improve, but we are on an interesting way and already on a pretty high level, I would say.
What do you think about the new regulations for Gran Selezione about 90% Sangiovese, no international varieties, and also you can use villages now. You could make a Radda Chianti Classico. You can make a Castellina and Chianti. But what do you think of that?
Well, let's say your second question. So my first answer, I do really think it's good that wineries can show a bit more clearly where the wine comes from, as the Chianti Classico is such a big region. In the end of the day, we did now what probably a lot of journalists, a lot of sommeliers already did in their restaurants on their cart.
True.
So that's like really what we are as a winery, what you as a wine critic, as sommeliers already did. So I think that's extremely useful and extremely good. Regarding the blend, I just mentioned you before, we will do 100% Sangiovese as a Gran Selezione. For me personally, the Gran Selezione is a new wine, so it doesn't really have, let's say, something to do with the tradition. And therefore, today we are able to make outstanding 100% Sangioveses, so why not doing it? That they want to have still 10% of something else, why not? Personally, I can understand why they choose not international grape
Mm.
varieties. In reality, as I work as a winemaker, I don't really think that this decision makes a lot of sense, because if I do have a merlot already 40 years at my estate, it's probably more linked than if I do plant tomorrow Malvasia. If I
Yeah.
have already got my Malvasia for 40 years, of course,
Yeah.
perfect. But if not, probably my Merlot or my Cabernet Sauvignon I planted in the 80s is today at least as much connected as a grape variety from let's say the earlier days. But that's my personal.
No, I see.
I do think as older a wine is, as more interesting is the grape.
Yeah.
Uh, if I'm not doing something new, I will do everything to keep what I already have and to work with what I have already have. That's also why we started to use the Mossal selection some years ago, because we really want to reproduce our own plants, which are connected, which are just a step ahead with being part of where we are.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. So just quickly, what on the Ilatria, what or Ilatraia,
Ilatraia.
um, yeah. Um, so tell me about the 18. I really enjoyed it. What's the blend this year?
The blend is roughly 40% Petit Verdot, 40 Cabernet Sauvignon, and 20 Cabernet Franc. All grapes from the Maremma. So we have at the Maremma, as you know, there is its
Mm.
own cellar. So the grapes are really just going a few meters to the cellar, and it's not that we wanted to do a Bordeaux blend in the Maremma. Just we are very close to the sea. It's extremely hot and extremely dry, and the Sangiovese at our property needs irrigation. And the
Mhm.
Petit Verdot, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Cabernet Franc do mature perfectly well every year without irrigation.
So it's
And
dry farms. Wow.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of dry farming. I believe that with dry farming, I can link my wines more to the soil, more to the spot, and I can achieve flavors which are not only typical for the grape variety, but typical
Yeah,
for growth. And this is what we
that's
are looking
cool.
for. We are, of course, we want to do a wine where you still can recognize the Petit Verdot, where you still can recognize the Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc, but we want to make a wine which is unique. And the only thing, let's say, what a winemaker can make unique is to
So good.
underline where it comes from. Because the vineyard I have, it's mine. Nobody else will be able to grow wines where I do grow wine. So
Yeah.
whatever I can do to connect the situation as maximum as possible is what we are looking for. And dry farming helps in this process a lot.
And I think it's interesting that also that it's 40% Petit Verdot, and it doesn't dominate the blend. You know, Petit Verdot is a lot of times even a tiny bit, it just takes over, and but you're not getting all that spicy, intense character. It has a really nice like purple fruits and beauty. You know, it's so beautiful. I'm really surprised on the quality, and maybe some of the best Petit Verdot out there. And the tannins, again, same thing as the um, bleu, where you get everything so integrated together. You can feel the tannins, but it's almost like they're not there. Do you know what I mean? No chewiness, just spread
Yeah.
across the palate.
Oh, thank you.
That's
I'm
really cool.
really happy with both wines.
Yeah.
18 was for us, it was great. And you still have, which is in the Maremma, of course, a bit more challenging than in the Chianti Classico region. You have this certain freshness, this acidity,
Yeah.
which will remains till the end. So it's like, you want to have a next sip. It's not that you're totally overwhelmed. It's long, but in an elegant, fresh way.
Beautiful. Well, listen, I better go. And it was great to talk to you, and thanks for your thoughts. And also, congratulations on the wine. They're really beautiful. And they all had such a wonderful freshness, which really counts, and precision and just balance. So
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thank you for your time. Bye bye,
Cheers. Bye
James.
bye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.